So I draw a lot of inspiration from nature and life and just anything that's naturally the way it is. And so I came to think about how trees operate. And it's kind of fascinating when you think about it in a way, because in the summer, the leaves are in full bloom, they're all out in the sun, they're absorbing as much sun as they can. And in the fall, they shed off their leaves because if they don't do that, what's going to end up happening is that the rain's gonna a heavy rainfall, and the rain will get on the leaves, and when wind comes, the leaves have more weight, and that will cause the tree to blow, and it will be heavier, causing branches to break. So it has to shed off the leaf in order to protect itself. And in the winter, all the leaves are gone. It draws all the nutrients from the summer, and in the fall, it draws all the energy inside to survive the winter, where there's not a lot of sunlight. So it uses the sugar and it uses the energy that it has managed to absorb over the summer to survive the harsh winter. And so the leaves that fall onto the ground acts like a blanket for the dirt or the bed for the tree. So it keeps the soil warm and it doesn't freeze. So and then again, when spring comes, things begin to defrost and bugs and stuff begins to eat the leaves and things begin to come into life again. There's a lot of food on the ground from the leaves. So bugs begin to eat that, and the byproducts of the bugs is essentially nutrients for the ground. And the nutrients again is used to push new leaves out again during the spring, where all the energy begin to burst out, and it uses new energy combined with the energy stored, and it will burst out to get new leaves. And again, for the summer, and the cycle repeats. And that's kind of fascinating when you think about it, because human beings are very similar to that cycle. In the summer, when the sun is out, nice weather, the first thing we want to do is to go out and enjoy the sun, do some kind of like weather, sun sport, go out, play in the field, go to the park, barbecue, be out in the sun. And so when the summer is over, that's when fall begins to come into play, where rain begins to happen, the weather begins to change. So people begin to draw themselves inward. Sometimes they're out, there's like cooler days. So still go out and have fun, but not as much as summer. So begins to draw in again, a lot of rain. No one likes to go out and play when it rains. And then winter comes, it's cold, some places snow. You don't really want to go out and barbecue and do things because it's so cold and it's really uncomfortable when it's cold. Not only do you have to have the proper clothes and you can get wet and things can get pretty harsh in the winter. And again, spring again. So everyone is drawn in for the winter, stay inside and kind of huddle up, do activities inside places, go to inside places like activities that you can do inside. And then spring comes again, the sun begins to come out and the energy begins to flow out again. And people see the sun and slowly you can kind of take off the clothing. The sun is out, go out and enjoy the breeze, starting to barbecue a little bit again, when the sun gets a little bit, or when the weather is a little bit hotter. But not as much as summer. But so essentially, when summer hits again, the cycle repeats. So in terms of energy, it is kind of interesting because summertime is when the leaves absorb the most sun. And That's the time when people are mostly outside and play in the sun and go out and play. Fall is when they kind of prepare to go back inside the home and do inside activities. In winter, you're kind of locked inside. Spring, you go back out, starting to feel the weather, and then you go out and play in the summer again. So, in a way, this cycle applies to almost everything in life. And I've come to realize in my journey, when it comes to embarking on my journey itself, it reminds me a lot of this cycle. It's like if there was summer all year around, that would be kind of harsh in a way. Especially, let's say, like if you're a cactus, then sun is something that you learn how to adapt and thrive over generations of evolutions, and you built to survive in the summer like that. But if you take a pine tree and swap places with the cactus, it's not going to be able to survive. So, in the same way, in a lot of people, they have or possess a different abilities that gain access to certain aspects to life that is different than other people. So, for instance, some could be more prone to handle stress than others. And depending on how their family tree has evolved and given birth to that person, they inherit everything that is in that tree from both sides. So, depending on how they evolve, where they evolve, what characteristics they manage to inherit, that will be the build for that person. So, again, someone could be a cactus, for instance, and they could handle the heat a lot better than someone who was born in somewhere cold, like a pine tree, for instance. So it's not like one is better than the other. It is just the different conditions that one managed to surpass the other. And they managed to, let's say, the cactus in the summer or in high heat. Low heat, you would have the pine tree, the two extremes. And so you have everything in between, like bushes, regular trees outside, and fruits, and all kinds of things in nature, right? So depending on where that source come from, like a plant or source of life comes from, it adapts to that. So in the same way, when it comes to people, they have certain abilities that's different than what we have, for instance. So in my case, let's say some people like to multitask and do a bunch of different things. But when I do that, I won't be on the same level as them. Because when I do things, I like to focus on one thing at a time and just do just that. Whereas other people, when they do that, they could get bored. They can't focus on one thing for a long time, or they don't find joy in that. But I find joy in doing one thing at a time. And so that is just an example to kind of elaborate further on the cycles of life, the 4 cycles. And some has 4 cycles or 4 seasons, some has only 2, some has only 1. So for those who have 4 cycles, 4 seasons, it's not literally, but metaphorically speaking, someone with 4 seasons, they will operate in a similar way. So during the summer, they come out and play. During fall, they begin to retreat. During the winter, they stay inside and reflect and analyze things in life. And then in spring, they come out again. So in my journey, when I go about embarking on this journey, it's almost the same. So daytime, in the morning, I like to do most of my active stuff. In the evening is when I like to not so active. And at noon, not so active, evening, begin to shut down. At nighttime, I sleep. So in the same way, that cycle of nature is applied to the day, and a day is now can be projected into the journey. So if you embark on a journey, for instance, I won't be able to run the entire way to my destination. Let's say imagine someone who's trying to summit a mountain. They're not going to sprint up the mountain. They have to walk up to a certain point, take a break, rest, and then fuel up, eat up, and then go on the journey again. So that's kind of like the same cycle that happens in a journey and in human beings. And that's like the lesson from the trees in seasons and everything that plays out in life. And it plays out in a day, it plays out in a year. There's a certain season, the time where the energy is higher than others. So during the summertime, the energy is higher for some, lower for some. It depends. So let's say you are not allergic to heat, but you don't like the heat. Then whenever the heat comes, you want to stay inside. But whereas some other people, when they see the heat, they want to be outside. So the body is built different. That's kind of like taking a polar bear and switching it with animals in the desert. Like it doesn't belong there. But so trying to like frame the world into one dimension, it becomes skewed because it's not like that. Because we all know if we take a cactus and plant it somewhere it's cold, it's not built for that. It wasn't evolved to do that. Take a fish out of the water. It wasn't evolved to walk on water and play volleyball. Walk on land, I mean. You take a polar bear and take it to the desert and ride camels. It doesn't do that. It wasn't built to be somewhere hot. So whatever the condition is needed is what will evolve from that. But that is where it evolved from. But if you take it out of its context, then everything becomes obsolete. Just like taking the fish out of the water, putting the monkey into the water, take the eagle from the sky and putting into the water. You take the fish from the water out of the water. So things like that applies everywhere. Like if you have a tree that doesn't follow the cycles, let's say it's supposed to absorb sunlight whenever summer is here, but it refuses to do so, well, it will become obsolete. If you block the sunlight from the tree, it's going to be obsolete. It doesn't get enough energy to survive the fall, the winter, and the next cycle begins to decay. It might get energy from its neighbors and it give it sources of energy and to survive for a little bit. But if you block all the sunlight, it won't be able to survive. So in the same way, when embarking on a journey, if these aspects to life is not considered, the journey becomes obsolete. If I embark on this journey and I don't refuel, I'm done. So over the past couple weeks, it kind of felt like I wanted to sprint this marathon. And I've come to realize I needed to take a step back and reflect on the things that I've done and see where it's going. And that's kind of like the fall. You withdraw, and in the winter you reflect, and in the spring you come out with some new energy and try again. And so it's always like summer you come out and you exert energy. I think the camera went down. Did it? Let's see. Did it stop? Is that a battery? Of course. Okay, that will be it. Okay, the camera is out. The episode will end here. It is what it is. So, well, let's wrap it up as there is no video to this. But essentially, life reflects itself in every dimension to life. And in this example, the tree, the cycle of the seasons of trees and weather can be applied into our life in the same way as in during the morning. It depends on what season you operate on. But in this case, in my case, my season is in the morning. I like to be mostly active. And in the noon, I like to slow down. In the evening, I like to shut down. And at night, rest, sleep, and then repeat. And so, depending on how you evolved and the way that you operate, it all differs from people to people. So, following our own rhythm will yield the greatest result. So, in the same way, like the cactus, it has its own evolutionary pattern and rhythm that it evolved from. By following that, what it is most efficient and operate on, it will yield the greatest result. But if you take the cactus and put it somewhere cold, swap places with a pine tree, it is bound to decay and is bound to fail because it wasn't evolved to be there. It's out of its own element. It's out of its element. So knowing how you operate essentially allows you to tap into the source and allow you to have the greatest yields in life. The path will become effortless because you operate the way that you were designed to operate. With that being said, that will take this episode to an end. And yeah, unfortunate the camera went out, but I've recorded like 5-6 times today, and there's always something that happens. But this time, I insist, I insist that it had to be up. So it will be up. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.